Carter, Miller, and Johnny, members of the Sweeney police team, set out to apprehend the robbers. In another location, at a delivery warehouse, a heavy vehicle and a car with masked passengers broke through the wall, and the robbers inside held the workers hostage at gunpoint. Two of the robbers opened a container filled with gold bars, while four other members of the Sweeney team, Kara, Nancy, Simon, and Freddie, were en route to the robbery site. The robbers were trying to move the gold into their car, but two cars arrived and caused chaos, resulting in the arrest of three of the robbers. One of the robbers managed to escape, but Carter chased him down. The robber pulled out a knife, but Jack Regan, the Sweeney leader, arrived and apprehended the robber. Frank Haskins, Jack's boss, criticized Jack's team for causing damage on duty and being monitored by the internals team. However, Jack's priority was catching the criminals without casualties, and he disregarded Frank's complaints. After the operation, Jack looked at the scattered gold with a desire to take it. Later, the Sweeney team celebrated their success at a cafe. During the celebration, Johnny toasted Freddie's first experience as a new recruit, while Jack's attention was on Nancy, with whom he had an illicit relationship. Jack met with Harry, an information seeker and ex-policeman, to exchange the gold for money and gather information on the next robbery. Harry informed Jack of a private bank in Trafalgar Square being stalked by robbers. Jack rejoined his team to continue celebrating. The next morning, Jack was caught by Carter's stepson, Neil, who found cigarettes in Jack's pocket. Jack advised Neil that smoking was not healthy, and Neil teased him about his potbelly. Carter confronted Jack about his affair with Nancy, and Jack confessed while advising Carter that sometimes feigning ignorance could be helpful. As Carter and Jack walked towards the bank, Carter was still curious, and he addressed Nancy's husband again. Despite being in the same office as them, Jack didn't respond to Carter's words. Upon arriving in front of the bank, Jack gave Carter 30 seconds to analyze all the bank's security facilities and the way the robbers broke into the bank. Afterward, Carter explained his theory. Carter is of the opinion that in order to catch criminals, he must think like one. In the case of the bank robbery, he suggested that hacking the security system of the bank should be easy as the entrance CCTV is directly connected to a private company. Moreover, many guards do not have a gun license, which would make it very easy for the robbers to paralyze and take them hostage. All they needed was one person to do it. Meanwhile, one other person would collect all cell phones and turn them off. Two more people would go upstairs using the elevator to reach the safe. To escape, they could use London's underground passageways, which could get them anywhere and make their escape easier. The robbers would only need to take one bag of bank securities. Jack was very impressed by Carter's genius and the way he helped analyze every robbery situation. Carter's analysis was always proven, and no robber had ever escaped their ambush thanks to his expertise. Upon meeting the bank manager, Bledisloe, Jack explained that he was there for a routine check. However, his mention of wanting to investigate what the manager was doing with the bank slightly frightened him. Bledisloe quickly explained that this was a private bank that held foreign currency for mostly Middle Eastern clients, such as Abu Dhabi, Qatar, Dubai, and others. However, Jack advised him that the bank's security was inadequate and could lead to someone being shot. The manager took offense and got angry, saying that their bank was not a street bank where anyone could shoot someone. Upon entering the police headquarters, Jack met Nancy and her husband, Ivan. They greeted each other awkwardly, afraid of their illicit relationship being discovered. Jack then mentioned Ivan's job, who only works from behind a desk and takes all the credit for other people's hard work. Ivan countered Jack's words by saying that he didn't really care about that, as he was busy taking care of criminals under the guise of the police. Before walking out, Ivan kissed Nancy to upset Jack. Sure enough, Jack was a little jealous to see it, calling him a boss's sycophant. However, Nancy immediately calmed Jack down and told him to be mature. Ivan is not a fool. His position is proof of his intelligence in assessing and utilizing every situation in certain conditions. When exiting the elevator, Nancy tells Jack to walk in a different direction because the security cameras are always watching. Elsewhere, in the Sweeney team's office, Carter tells Simon that Jack told him to keep an eye on the QTZ, a private bank in Trafalgar Square. Frank and Ivan arrive at Sweeney's division, and Frank introduces Detective Ivan, Nancy's husband from the Internal Affairs Division, to the rest of the team. He asks everyone to provide any information Ivan wants. Ivan says that his purpose in coming to Sweeney's headquarters is to observe their work and to make some suggestions to improve the success of the Sweeney team. Jack quickly explains some of the team's successes, and to humiliate Ivan, he asks arrogantly what advice he can give to a team that has never failed an ambush. Ivan gets annoyed and reminds Jack of the damage claims that the Sweeney team always makes while on duty. According to Ivan, Jack's methods and tactics were too brutal and always left a huge damage. Jack disagreed with Ivan's words and denied his accusations. He believed that Ivan just didn't want to see the Sweeney team become stronger and was pressuring them, making it difficult for them to work and ultimately disband. Frank intervened and calmed Jack down, asking the rest of the team to leave for 5 minutes except Jack. Jack questioned Ivan's true intentions, whether he wanted to disband the Sweeney team that he had built up over the years, or whether this was a personal matter or a matter of work. Ivan didn't want to argue with Jack's arrogance, so he took out several gold pieces from his jacket pocket that were known to be missing from the scene of the previous robbery. Ivan claimed that the Sweeney team had violated the ethics code by stealing evidence. Jack firmly stated that he was working for a small salary on the front line, fighting a big risk, and could even lose his life, unlike Ivan, who worked from behind a desk with a large salary, commanding and hiding when criminals came. Jack told Ivan that it was better to go after the real criminals rather than finding fault with the police officers. The police officers only took a little to increase their income to please themselves, just to party on a successful night. Before Jack leaves, Ivan reminds him that everyone has a weak spot, and Jack is no exception. Afterward, Jack catches up with Carter, who is watching Neil take part in a running race. At the same time, a robbery is taking place in a small jewelry store. The robbers take all the jewelry, and one of them tries to break into the safe using an explosive. When the bomb detonates, all the alarms in the jewelry store go off and automatically connect to the police emergency call. Right after, Jack, who was enjoying watching Neil in the race, suddenly receives a message that there was a robbery in a jewelry store. While at the crime scene, the robbers also rush away when they realize that their robbery has been discovered by the police. Jack then arrives at the scene and immediately checks the CCTV. Apparently, a robber had killed a woman who happened to be shopping at the store. Kara then reports to Jack if the stolen car used by the robbers had been found burning at Heathrow. Then Carter also tells Jack that the victim was a foreigner named Natalija Wolskat, a temporary worker at a law firm. She came to the store to buy jewelry, and according to Carter's observations, there was nothing unusual about the robbery. While Jack is with Johnny outside, Freddie, who has inspected the crime scene, informs Jack that he found the remains of the explosives used by the robbers. Carter begins to guess the motive for the robbery. A jewelry store that was robbed is just a small shop that is not very profitable, killing a woman just for a few $100,000 worth of jewelry, all beyond logic. Later on, Jack shows Carter some photos of the safe holes, from the year 2000 to the present. All the photos of the safe's blast holes look the same. Then Jack shows a photo of Francis Allen, the man he had arrested twice when he was a teenager, in the act of robbery. Surprisingly, Francis is back in prison again. After a week of release, he is a violent maniac. He was last seen on parole, and then he disappeared without a trace. And now, the man reappeared and established an arms development contract for the internals team, and he also supplied weapons to the military, which made him filthy rich. With all this wealth, the man settled in Montenegro. Carter then asks Jack if it seems quite common for a rich man like him to come back just to rob a small jewelry store, or did the opportunity come to him, and he couldn't resist. Jack didn't dare to jump to any conclusions. Asking Alan directly was the only answer. Before he leaves, he tells Carter to assign Johnny to go to Hatton Park to see if anyone is selling stolen goods. Just as he is about to leave, Frank detains Jack and asks him if he has worked honestly. If he has not been honest, Jack must be able to eliminate all the evidence. When Jack hears the question, he asks Frank to do his job to convince Ivan not to investigate the Sweeney team. Then Jack goes with Nancy to look for Alan at a billiard hall. However, the guard does not let him in. Without many words, Jack immediately beats the guard. Seeing Jack raging in his place, David, the owner, confronts him while asking who he is looking for. Jack then conveys his intention, that he is looking for Alan, and he also wants information about the jewelry store robbery. It turns out that Alan has been missing for years, and David then tells Jack to forget his intentions. David then belittles Nancy, which makes this sadistic woman angry, and she immediately hits him. Jack threatens David not to mess with him, and if David dares to lie and hide information about Alan, then he will surely face the consequences. Moments later, while in the parking lot, Jack receives a call from Carter. He tells him that he managed to get information about Alan. Long story short, Sweeney's team starts to observe Alan's residence through surveillance cameras. Jack is so eager to catch him that he is willing to look at the CCTV screen for hours to find out Alan's whereabouts, which bores Carter. Johnny then comes to bring them drinks. Jack immediately asks Johnny to tell Simon to leave the bank surveillance because he is worried that Alan will show up, and it is too risky for him. Later that evening, Carter and Jack have dinner with Megan and Nancy. Carter and Megan order a lot of food, while Jack only orders a salad because he had promised Nancy to lose weight. Later on, Megan delivers good news about Carter, who will apply for a promotion. Of course, Jack is happy to hear it. After finishing their dinner together, Jack and Nancy go to the hotel to release their desires. Sorry, this scene is censored. By the morning, the Sweeney team has observed suspicious movements at Alan's house. All the Sweeney team is ready to ambush, but Jack holds them back because there is a suspicious car coming to Alan's residence. It turns out that from inside the car, two men get out of the car, and Jack is very sure that the two of them are his colleagues. Jack then gives orders to his team to split up in all directions, closing the escape route. Ambushes are carried out according to the custom: strike and paralyze. In the end, two people are arrested, but Alan manages to escape with his car. Jack immediately chases him by car, driving like a madman. He also asks Carter to cut the road ahead so he can block Alan's escape. It is bad luck for Alan because as he crosses the fork in the road, Carter manages to hit his car and make his escape unsuccessful. Afterwards, Alan and his two colleagues are taken to the police station for questioning. Ivan, who witnessed all of this, just stands there with a blank stare. In the interrogation room, Jack forces Alan to confess to the crimes he had committed, why he robbed a small jewelry store, and why he killed a female visitor. In a different interrogation room, Carter also begins to interrogate Leo, even though he already knows that Leo will insist on keeping his mouth shut. While smiling, Leo answers as if he does not understand all the accusations. He says that he went to Alan's house just to have a barbecue. Likewise with Louis, he admits to going to Alan's house for a barbecue party. Later on, Jack begins to discuss Alan's past, a respected high-class criminal, but now only robbing small shops. Then Jack shows him the proof of the remaining explosives, the materials of which could only be obtained by certain people, proving that Alan had connections to get those explosives. Casually, Alan begins his defense by showing his sunburned wrists from sunbathing. Alan also denies the allegations about the explosives and the fingerprints found, which could have been someone else's fingerprints. Apparently, Jack missed one irrefutable proof of his alibi. At the time of the robbery, Alan was on vacation on his yacht. To prove it, Alan asked Jack to take his confiscated cell phone. It was true that the cell phone contained photos of him on vacation, complete with the date and time when the robbery occurred. This real evidence made Jack helpless because Alan's evidence and alibi were convincing. Moments later, Jack was called into Frank's office to submit the results of his interrogation. Frank told Jack that Alan's electronic passport evidence proved that he was on vacation at the time of the robbery. Jack had to release Alan immediately because an accusation without evidence could get them all prosecuted. Later that night, Jack is so messed up that his biological urges are impaired. Jack was convinced that Alan was the culprit, but somehow Alan created an alibi, making all the accusations irrefutable. In the midst of his confusion, Jack asked Nancy to leave her husband immediately so that they could live together and immediately build their own business as their retirement support. That night, Jack couldn't sleep, so he went to Carter and invited him to go to the office to review the CCTV footage of the robbery. As usual, Carter was quick to spot the irregularities. He stated that the robbery happened seconds before the store was about to close. He also realized that the robber had deliberately killed a young woman for a specific reason. That was very unusual for a typical robber to do, as it would be deliberately making their job harder for less money. Carter began to wonder if it might all be a setup to cover up a planned murder. To find the answer, they must examine the woman who was killed. Soon, the morning arrived. Jack and Carter then went to the female victim's house. Jack reported what he found to Frank, that Alan committed the robbery just to cover up the murder. Frank then allowed him to investigate, but there were only 2 hours left before Alan was released. When they arrived at their destination, Jack and Carter met with landlady, the owner of the house. When Jack and Carter showed their identities, the old lady didn't dare to refuse them. Without any delay, they immediately went in to conduct a search and an investigation. Everything related to the victim is carefully examined, until Jack finally finds a photo of the victim with an old man. The landlady remembered that the man in the photo had come a few weeks ago, but she didn't note his name. Upon returning to the office, Jack began to analyze and search for data on the old man with fingerprints attached to the photo and matched them with fingerprints found at the crime scene. Soon Jack got the results. It turned out that he had caught the wrong person. The culprit was not Alan. The man in the photo with the victim was Macon Troubled. Jack immediately went to the interrogation room and released Alan because he was innocent. Alan then grinned mockingly, asking Jack to interrogate him again because there were still 15 minutes left. But Jack immediately refused it and sent him away. Before he left, Alan threatened Jack by saying that the careless actions he did now would be problematic in the future. In the midst of Jack's problems, Ivan suddenly appeared and said that he had found Jack's weak point while showing Jack's glasses that he found at Nancy's place. Jack, who had been holding back his anger, immediately choked him while asking him to stay away from him if he wanted to survive. Carter, who saw the incident, immediately apologized to Ivan, saying that Jack was currently in a mess, so don't provoke him. Without hesitation, Ivan asks Carter to replace Jack to lead the Sweeney team. Carter has a record of solving cases that is perfect, and he has a very rare ability to solve problems. Besides that, Carter also has the fastest record for analysis time, which is only 30 seconds. He is a real genius. We switched back to Jack, who is now issuing an arrest warrant to Macon Troubled. Carter, who understands Jack's current condition, suggests that he go home to rest, trying to relax his tense muscles with Nancy, but Jack is still thinking about what carelessness he has done. Suddenly, Kara tells Jack that she got a report that there was a robbery at a private bank in Trafalgar Square. Jack immediately realized that it was Troubled and his group. All Sweeney teams were ordered to immediately go to the location of the robbery. While on the way, Jack reported to Frank that Alan had nothing to do with the robbery the other day. The real perpetrator was Macon Troubled, and he was currently in action again robbing a private bank in Trafalgar. But Frank instead ordered Jack and the Sweeney team to immediately withdraw because Ivan had made a formal complaint about Jack. Frank advised Jack to forget about the robbery and not give Ivan the opportunity to disband the Sweeney team. But it wouldn't be Jack if he followed orders. He still drove to the scene of the robbery, regardless of what Ivan did. Nancy, who always supports what Jack does, then gives one of her earrings to him, as proof of her loyalty to Jack. Nancy promised that she would divorce Ivan after all these problems were over. Meanwhile, at the bank, Macon Troubled and 2 of his friends were ready to leave, but Jack and his team had already arrived at the place. The robbers immediately opened fire until one of the bullets hit Simon. One of the robbers fled, and Carter immediately chased him. Meanwhile, Troubled, along with one of his other friends, tried to escape towards a different direction. Jack never gave up and continued to attack, but the escape route was very free of obstacles. Elsewhere, Carter failed to immobilize the target. The robber managed to escape using the bicycle of a local citizen he had robbed. Jack's pursuit also continued until he entered a museum, where Jack again received orders from Frank to retreat, but Jack continued the pursuit. When Troubled tried to escape through the back door, Jack told Freddy to split up and prepare for an ambush secretly, while he and Nancy would continue to chase down every hallway and room. Unfortunately, Freddy is held at gunpoint by 2 gunmen, leaving him helpless. When Freddy was shot, Jack and Nancy heard the gunshot and immediately rushed to the source of the gunshot. Fortunately, Freddy survived because of the bulletproof vest attached to his body. The chase continued again to the parking lot, but unfortunately, all cell phone signals were blocked in this place, so Jack and Nancy could not contact anyone. So they split up to look for the 2 robbers who were still hiding. When Nancy was away from Jack's supervision, she was suddenly ambushed by the 2 robbers and taken into the car. Jack panicked when he realized Nancy was missing. He tried to find her until he heard the engine start. Jack immediately went to the car, but unfortunately, there was no Nancy there, but someone else. Suddenly, a car behind him started up and immediately took off running. Jack immediately shot at them until he managed to hit one of them. Then he chased them using one of the cars available there. But unfortunately, the car swerved and crashed into another car because it was shot by Trebold. Nancy finally managed to get out of the robber's car in a helpless state. Jack, who was trapped in the car, tried to shoot Trebold, but unfortunately, he ran out of bullets. Trebold then took the opportunity to shoot Nancy to death. Jack was shocked to see someone he loved killed in front of his eyes without being able to help her. The scene then moves to a hospital. The news on the television is reporting on the killing of a policewoman following a bank robbery, and Jack watches the news with a blank stare, pensive with guilt. A little while later, Frank arrives with Ivan to see him. Ivan was devastated by his wife's death, and Jack could only apologize to him. But it's not that easy to solve the problem with an apology. Ivan threatens to destroy Jack and make sure he is fired from the police. Everything related to Jack will be investigated. All assets belonging to Jack will also be frozen, and the Sweeney team is prohibited from operating until the investigation is complete. If Jack still dared to act during the investigation period, then he would be immediately thrown into prison. His weapons and badges were stripped without any defense. This dilemma man just surrendered, giving up everything. At the moment, there was only one person whom he trusted, and that was Carter. He can't let Trebold go. Jack's revenge must be avenged. But Carter refuses to help him go after Trebold because it's too dangerous. Nancy's death has left him shaken. Plus, the internal team has sent several officers to watch him. They all have no choice. Jack then asked little Neil to take a picture of him and told Carter to deliver his message to Harry, to meet him on top of the Crow's Nest building while showing the photo. At least Carter could help him one last time. In the evening, Jack went to the train station to outwit Ivan's men who were watching him by pretending to enter the train. Then he walked to another carriage and exited from a different door, thus trapping the two watchers in the train. When he arrived at the meeting place, old Harry was waiting for him. As per his request, Jack was given a badge and a gun. The fake badge was made to look like the real thing. Before he left, Jack asked Harry to help him to check every hospital and clinic in search of the two robbers. They wouldn't be able to go far, as one of the robbers was injured. Jack then went to the billiard hall to find out some information about Trebold, and coincidentally, Leo, Alan's partner, was also there. Jack immediately ambushed him and asked him to tell the information about Trebold, but Leo insisted on keeping his mouth shut, which made Jack lose control and shot Leo's palm. With a shaking fear, Leo finally confessed and said that he was only paid by Alan to take his passport abroad for a vacation and use it as an alibi against all the accusations. Unfortunately, Leo doesn't know Alan's current whereabouts. Jack then asked Leo to convey his message to Alan that he would pursue him wherever he was. When Jack left the place, Ivan and his men managed to ambush him. The vengeful man immediately beat him for still daring to act against orders. When he arrived at the office, Jack couldn't help but reflect on his fate. What Alan did had made him a scapegoat, destroyed his career, and took away his girlfriend. Jack then took out Nancy's earring that he kept in his mouth and looked at it sadly. After that, Jack was taken by car to be sent to prison, and at the same time, Ivan came to Carter's residence to discuss his promotion. Ivan persuaded Carter not to waste this opportunity just for the sake of his loyalty to Jack. Ivan then gives him a time to think while handing him his business card. Ivan wants to take all of Jack's subordinates, especially the genius Carter. Elsewhere, the car that brought Jack has arrived at the prison. He is escorted by several guards to his holding cell. Jack got mocked by an officer who said that he was a famous cop who caught criminals, but now ended up in prison. The prisoners who had been arrested by Jack looked at him vengefully like a tiger stalking its prey. After entering the prison, Jack intended to call Carter immediately, but there was only Neil there, saying that his father was not at home. Suddenly, an inmate came in and wanted to get revenge. Jack immediately beat him mercilessly. Afterwards, the other inmates also arrived to beat Jack, leaving him helpless. On the other hand, Carter is currently in a dilemma, whether to pursue a career but betray Jack or keep his loyalty. In the midst of this dilemma, Megan, his girlfriend, provides a solution that he should do what he thinks is right. Do not engage with any interests. Let his deepest feelings guide him. Once he is sure of his decision, Carter then follows Harry to find out who the shot robber is, who Jack is looking for, through a doctor named Bernard. The doctor tells him that he just operated on someone who was shot an hour ago. He also tells him where the guy is hiding, which is in a taxi office that they use as their front to sell drugs down the street. Without any delay, Carter starts moving with Harry towards the taxi station. After locating it without any fear, Carter went to the group's hideout alone and took out all the guards without mercy. After taking care of the guards outside, Carter entered the back room, and sure enough, the shot robber was there, asleep. Carter's attention was then drawn to all the papers on the walls of the room containing all the robbery plans and photos of Jack, who was indeed their target. Then Carter presses the robber's gunshot wound with the tip of his gun, making him grimace in pain helplessly. Carter then told him to tell him the whereabouts of Trebold if he wanted to stay alive. Unable to bear the pain, the robber finally told him everything. Trebold will be returning to his home by a ship called Pegasus in Gravesend Harbor. When Carter wanted to finish him off to avenge Nancy, a heavily armed SWAT team suddenly arrived. It turns out that Frank is leading the team. He was disappointed to learn that Carter had disobeyed his orders. Their team is being watched, and what Carter did could get the Sweeney team disbanded. Before he left, Carter said that he regretted not going with Jack to catch the villain, and now, even though they were acting right, they were becoming villains. This was a trap that Trebold set up to get rid of Jack for revenge. The next day, at headquarters, Frank gathered all the information he had gotten. Carter then asked him to stop doing anything, but Carter had already decided to help Jack. He persuades Frank to help him and give him time, because the real criminals are roaming free out there, while the justice enforcers are locked up in prison. He's already got information on Trebold's whereabouts, and the next step is to arrest him. But to make that arrest, he needs Frank's help. Carter says that his original goal in joining the team was to be a real man, to catch real criminals, not working from behind a desk. But Frank still forbids him, as his position is also at stake, so he can't take any chances. As he was about to leave, Carter saw a Pegasus written on the information board. Then Frank said Pegasus was the name of Alan's ship. Meanwhile, in prison, Jack got a few cuts on his face after being beaten by the inmates. However, their revenge was not finished yet. Jack then realized the situation and rushed back into his cell. When Jack was ready, behind the door, it turned out that it was the prison warden who told him that his friend had come looking for him. Apparently, Carter managed to persuade Frank and provide guarantees to get Jack out of prison. They leave without delay to start the hunt. On their way, Carter shared all the information he got. A few moments later, Frank called and informed him that the Pegasus ship had arrived in the British territorial waters. Upon hearing this, Jack immediately prepared his weapons and continued to drive towards the harbor. When they arrived, Jack and Carter saw Trebold's men transporting bags containing the money from the previous robbery. As the targets make their way to the ship, Jack orders Carter to prepare for an ambush and immediately sneaks inside the Pegasus with weapons at the ready. Jack checked the bottom of the ship, where he found Alan. Feeling himself in danger, a surprised Alan immediately attacked Jack. When Alan was cornered and almost caught, suddenly one of his men came to Alan's aid. Alan and his men managed to escape and managed to stab Jack in the leg. Carter, who saw Alan running away, then tried to shoot him from the boat, but Trebold appeared to shoot him. Jack asked Carter to protect him so he could chase Alan and Trebold, but they still managed to escape. That's when a fierce chase ensued. The chase continued until they entered a crowded housing complex. Carter tried to shoot at their car, but Alan responded by shooting at their car, causing their car to swerve and hit a parked car, while Alan's car also bounced off from being hit by Jack. In such a situation, Trebold tried to restart his car. A few moments later, Carter, who had regained consciousness from the accident, then got out of the car, while Jack was still unconscious in the car. A moment later, Alan's car successfully started and immediately stepped on the gas trying to escape. Carter, who was already standing outside, then opened his fire, causing the speeding Trebold to hit him. Jack suddenly awoke and immediately fired his gun at Trebold and finished him off. Jack didn't want Nancy's death to happen to Carter. Meanwhile, Alan, who was badly injured in the accident, couldn't help but surrender when Jack caught him. Jack's struggle to avenge Nancy pays off. Alan has been severely punished for everything he did. A few days later, Jack re-entered the office and approached Carter, whose hand was still injured. With a smile, Carter handed over Jack's badge, which Frank had previously confiscated. Later, Jack and Carter meet all of the Sweeney teammates in the parking lot. They'd been waiting for their arrival. The Sweeney team was ready to return to duty. Whereas Ivan could only watch as Jack enjoyed his freedom, the Sweeney team managed to escape the accusations of the internal team. A few words of explanation. Alan intends to take revenge on Jack, who has arrested him twice, by distracting him by robbing a bank in Trafalgar Square, while the woman who was killed in the jewelry shop was Trebolt's lover, who was deliberately sacrificed to convince Jack to enter the trap. Sometimes maintaining loyalty is like carrying tens of kilos of weight. The longer it is carried, the more painful it feels. But did you know, when the burden is lifted, the feeling of spaciousness is greater than before. Your shoulders will be stronger when the same burden is placed back. It will only feel so ordinary on your shoulders. I hope you're enjoying the content that I'm creating. If you like what you're seeing, please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to tell me what I should fix or improve on in the future. Your feedback is greatly appreciated, and it helps me create better content for you. Thanks for your support.